Hi folks, I'm pumped to kick off a new episode covering the newly announced Windows 365 Frontline offering in shared mode with Scott, one of the team members who built this feature. So let's get started. Hi folks, I'm pumped to welcome you on another episode of Windows in the Cloud, and this time a very special one as we have the new Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode as a topic, together with Scott Duffy from the team here that built this feature together with other team members as well. So he has been one of those core engineering leaders, but before we jump into Scott and his role and what he has been building, as always, please make sure to subscribe on our Windows IT Pro YouTube channel to stay up to date about all the latest Windows Cloud news. So, hi Scott, how are you doing?
Hi Christian, I'm well. How are you today?
I'm great as well. I'm less sunny as you are in Australia, but all good after an exciting week. Ignite announcements in Chicago. One of those things we announced was Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode, which you're going to talk about. But before you do so, can you introduce yourself a little bit more?
Absolutely. And yeah, I can't wait to talk about some of the great announcements we made in Frontline. But for those that have not seen me before on one of these presentations, my name's Scott Duffy. I'm a product manager here in the Windows Cloud Experiences team. And I've been in a few different teams at Microsoft and probably worked on some of the features that you're familiar with in Intune prior to this role. And now I have the pleasure of talking about Windows 365 and Frontline and the latest enhancements we're making.
Yeah, it's great to have you here as one of the Intune veterans working on filters and other things as well. I remember every time I'm seeing you on the camera, I see your beard is growing as well a little bit. So.
It's a little bit out of control at this point.
Let's see next time when we meet there. Hey, on a more serious note, can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about the work you have been doing with the team around the Windows 365 Frontline?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best ways to kind of tell this story is to kind of like cast back, 3 years to when Windows 365 was born. And it was very much built around use cases like you and I have. We are users who use our computers all the time to do work, and it was built in a way that everyone gets their own dedicated cloud PC that they work with. They use it all the time, 24/7. And that's where we started 3 years ago. Well, I should say that's where you started 3 years ago, because I joined the team more recently. But since then, the team went and looked at other use cases and heard from customers that, hey, we have the same demands for Windows 365 and a SaaS-based offering, but our users don't need a cloud PC all of the time. They only use it for part-time. And so last year, the team released Windows 365 Frontline to meet some of those use cases. So, and that was very successful. It was targeted at solving for use cases where things like shift work, for example, where users come for a fixed amount of period and then they don't need the cloud PC anymore, and someone else comes along to use it. And so that was kind of this growing trend of reaching more and more customer use cases with Windows 365. And now, beyond that, a year later, now we're talking about this new solution called Frontline in shared mode, which goes even further for users that really only need brief, intermittent, occasional use of a cloud PC. This is really helping customers solve for those types of use cases as well.
Yeah, that's great. So can you double click a little bit on these modes? Like, how do they work behind the covers? Is it like one is more for personal and the other one is more for non-personal? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So let me share with you a bit of a breakdown of the two Frontline modes side by side. So if you're looking on the left with dedicated mode, this is the solution that's been in the market for over a year, and it's becoming very popular with customers that have shift work. And some of the aspects of how this work is you use a Frontline license, you purchase a Frontline license, and that one license gives you essentially 3 cloud PCs for 3 individuals. So you purchase a license and it allows you to provision 3 Cloud PCs for 3 individual users, personalized to those 3 users. Everything is kept and persisted with that user. But the restriction on that is that only one of those 3 users can connect to a Cloud PC at any one time. So like I was saying before, this is very useful for scenarios where you have perhaps a support desk working around the clock. You have 3 shifts, and as one shift logs off, the next shift can come on, and so forth. So it's really been successful in those types of use cases. And that's all in the market today. Customers have been deploying this and are really happy with the experience they get. The new stuff on the right and what we've announced at Ignite in public preview is Frontline now in shared mode. So you can use the same license, but now you have the option on how you want to provision these Cloud PCs. And with shared mode, this is more geared around specialized task work type scenarios. And one license will allow you to provision just one Cloud PC that's in a shared mode, where a group of users can come and sign into that shared Cloud PC, and just one at a time. So this isn't multi-session. The users can come and sign in, sign out, and that allows the next user to come along. One of the key differences to call out in this case is that it's not a personalized Cloud PC for individuals. It's a shared Cloud PC, and none of that user data is persisted when a user signs off. The next user signs on, and none of the first user's data is persisted for the second.
Yeah, so if I hear you correct, Scott, so I've been deploying VDI solutions 10 years ago as well, and some of the listeners to this episode as well. What I'm hearing here is the familiarness of configuring and provisioning a Cloud PC, as the SaaS offering provides, but then with some of the flexibility and the modernization of coming from multi-user into like this Frontline offering, this shared mode offering, with a non-persistent kind of flavor if we talk about VDI terms as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the goal here, and with all Windows 365, is to make it simple and familiar to go and deploy. And so none of the complexity that comes along with VDI and setting up non-persistence is there. It's simply a mode that can configure just like any other Windows 365 Cloud PC. And it's set up in such a way that removes the user data, puts devices back into the pool, ready for the next users. So it's all part of the SaaS-based solution.
Yeah, that's great. I bet customers would love to try that out and see it as well. And you have some demos coming up. But before you do so, what are kind of use cases you see are compelling for these 2 modes?
Yeah, so we've been running quite an extensive private preview program before getting to public preview, which was announced at Ignite. And we've had customers across a wide range of frontline type use cases, so retail and manufacturing, and those types of users who don't need to have a full-time access to a Cloud PC, but just some intermittent and temporary access. And those use cases have actually paired very nicely. A lot of the customers are also were previewing the Link device as well, to actually give them that seamless access to a Frontline device in shared mode. So those types of scenarios, task-based scenarios, have been super successful for customers, and it's built around those. But there are additional scenarios that are non-Frontline type scenarios. For example, providing contractors access to your environment, that it's just intermittent temporary access. A second Cloud PC for a specialized application or task. There's a lot more use cases that we've heard about it, even at Ignite. And generally, customers are pretty happy and excited to try this out with some of the additional use cases they have.
Yeah, you touched base on the Windows 365 Link device, the first purpose-built device for Windows 365. So that works out of the box with these 2 modes. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So we've built this to work with the Windows 365 Link device, so that you can seamlessly connect to a Frontline device in shared mode. So that's really exciting. But it also works across other scenarios. So from the Windows app on mobile devices, on iOS devices and the newly announced Android Windows app on Android, and then also web, and in the future also boot to cloud devices as well.
That's awesome, man. And you're saying and mentioning like Frontline, Windows 365 Frontline. Does it mean that you need a different like license SKU for this new mode as well?
No, you don't have to use the Microsoft Frontline FSKUs for this. Your users can use shared cloud PCs on any of their other entitlements, like Microsoft 365 E3 or E5.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. And I think we have been talking a lot of fun already, but this audience that normally watch these episodes is very technical, and I'm technical too, like yourself, like an engineer by heart. Let's jump in some demos and show how it works, right?
Yes, let's kick into the fun part. Okay, so let's start here in the Microsoft Intune Admin Center, and we'll start with how you set this up as an IT admin. So if we go to Windows 365 and we go ahead and create a new provisioning policy, I'm going to click on Provisioning Policies and create policy. What should I call this one, Christian? Let's call it Windows in the Cloud Frontline.
I love it.
Okay. And so like I said before, this is super easy. There's a radio button if you want to use enterprise licensing or Frontline. Let's focus on Frontline here.
You made a typo. It's a window in the cloud.
Oh goodness! English is my second language. English Australian is my first. Okay, so let's firstly, before we go into the second option, shared, let's talk a little bit about dedicated. So, like I said at the start, dedicated mode allows you to provision several cloud PCs in a 1-to-3 ratio. So, you can provision using one license, you can provision 3 cloud PCs, and those are all dedicated to individuals, with only one of those 3 being able to be accessed at a given time. But the second option here is shared mode, and this is the exciting thing. And so, like I was saying at the start, this allows you to provision 1 cloud PC per license and provide access to a group of users to access that one shared cloud PC. So I'm going to go ahead and choose some of the other options here. I'm going to enter our ID join these devices. I'm going to put this on the Microsoft hosted network, and I'm going to choose Australia in this case. Okay, so in the image section here, I still have the choice of using a gallery image or a custom image. This is the same as Windows 365 Enterprise. But this is actually something that, using the gallery image here is really helpful to help your admins have one less task to do. In traditional VDI we were talking about before, there's a lot of work that goes into creating those custom images and keeping them up to date every month when new features come out. But if you choose the gallery image here, this is you get the choice of the Microsoft provided gallery images. There's exactly 2 images. There's one that has Microsoft 365 apps, and there's one that doesn't. And these are kept up to date every month with all the latest updates from Microsoft. So we definitely recommend this choice if you don't have those requirements for custom images. So I'm going to skip through to the next section on configuration. I'm going to use the default language here, and I'm going to add a naming convention to these devices that get provisioned. So I'm just going to use something really simple like FLS, and I'm going to use a random set of characters after the device name. So this next screen on assignments is where things get a bit interesting and diverge a little bit from what you may be used to with existing Windows 365 provisioning for enterprise. So the first thing that I do here is choose the group of users that should have access to this pool of shared cloud PCs. So I think I've got a group here called Windows in the Cloud users. I do. And when I choose that, I get the option to set up some of the other information here. So the Windows in the Cloud users, this just has 3 members at this point. I get a choice of my different licensing buckets. So in my tenant here, I've got 2 different buckets of licenses with 2 different specs. I'm going to choose this first one here. And you can see that I can provision up to 25 shared cloud PCs with this. In the assignment section, there's two really important things that I do here. One is set the name. So the name is going to be user-friendly. The users are going to see this in the Windows app when they choose which cloud PC to connect to. So I'm going to choose something like shared workstations here. And then I just choose how many cloud PCs I want to provision. So it looks like I can provision up to 25. I might just start with 5 in this collection here. So it's as easy as that. When I go and create, this will instantly go and start provisioning those cloud PCs. You'll see them if you go to the All Cloud PCs list. You'll see them go into a provisioning state. And I can expect that in about 30 minutes, I'm going to have those 5 cloud PCs available for the group of users that I just picked. So let's just refresh this, go to provisioning, and you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cloud PCs being built as we speak. There's one exciting thing that I didn't show in that demo so far that I do want to talk about with you, Christian. One of the key things preventing customers from using the gallery images so far has been really about some of those really business critical applications that need to be there for a user on day zero. So think about things like your VPN clients, for example, that gives your users connectivity to some on-prem segment of the network that's really important. Perhaps some AV software, security software, those types of things, and things that must always be there on day zero of the cloud PC. One of the things that I want to show you here in a different environment is the work that we've been doing with Autopilot device preparation to actually make it such that a cloud PC can install these key applications, it can run some scripts during provisioning, and only be made available to users after all of those things have actually installed on the device. So here I'm going to go ahead and create a Autopilot device preparation profile. I'm just going to show you where this exists. So under the enrollment section of Intune, I can go to device preparation policies, and I can create a agent-driven device preparation policy. So the current option today, what most customers will have is a user-driven flow where a user sets up a physical device, and because they log in, we know which one to apply. But actually, this is a new integration and a new type of device preparation policy called agent-driven here. So I'm going to go through and create one for us. So let's call this one Windows in the Cloud Prep policy. As part of this, I need to choose a group. And the importance of this group is to actually, what Intune will do is when it's provisioning these devices and enrolling them into Intune, all of those devices being provisioned will get added to that device group. It does some really special stuff. It does it really quickly, so the devices are instantly added to that group, and therefore all of the Intune apps and policies and any other workload can instantly be deployed to that device group while devices are provisioning. So I'm going to go ahead and choose an existing device group that I have here, Windows in the Cloud devices. There's currently no devices in this group, but don't worry, as devices enroll, they'll be added into it. And the true magic of this Autopilot device preparation policy is in this screen. So this is essentially the place where you say, this stuff is really important. When Windows 365 Cloud PCs are being built, make sure that all of this stuff gets installed while it's being built, so this is there on day zero for users. So the example app that I'm going to choose here is I've got a Contoso VPN app. I'm going to add that one. Next, save. That's created. What is the one thing that I haven't done in that flow? It's just assign it. I haven't assigned it to anyone. In the normal Autopilot device preparation flow, I would have had to choose a group of users, but we're setting up shared cloud PCs. They're not assigned to any users at all, right? The final step in this flow is to assign this device preparation policy to a Windows 365 provisioning policy. So I'm back in the configuration page, and you notice that there's this new Windows Autopilot section. And what this does is let me link some of those policies that I've created here. I'm choosing the Windows in the Cloud prep policy. And so what this is going to say is, as you're provisioning all the Cloud PCs in this policy, look at this device prep and make sure that this app, which is Contoso VPN app, gets installed as you're provisioning them, and don't make it available to users until afterwards. So I can do that with this checkbox.
Scott, a quick question. Does this extend time to the provisioning of the Cloud PC time as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it can. Like before, I said, generally it takes about 30 minutes to provision a Cloud PC. There are, if you're adding massive applications that are like gigabytes in size and that are like sequenced in a certain way, this can increase the time. But the good news is that a lot of this is under your control. So you have the control to say, look, if it goes for this long, time out, and just mark the devices as, provisioned, but with a warning that things might have taken too long. And the other thing you can do is there's reports around this. So through Windows 365, you can see how long the applications are actually taking to install, and then you can make some smart decisions around that. If an app takes too long to install in provisioning, you can kind of like make a choice to move it out or use a slimmer version, for example.
Okay, well, this is really cool. And I remember talking with VDI administrators saying that Intune is a great service, but it doesn't really help with when the user logs on for the first time, the app's already there pre-launch. So they were still sticking to that golden image kind of approach. So what you see saying here, for at least a Frontline offering, we have a solution here.
That's right. Yeah. So for those customers that really do not want to be in the business of creating images all the time and maintaining them and keeping them up to date, there's a solution here. You can just use the gallery image. You can use device prep to layer on the couple of apps or scripts config that you need. And you don't have to do any of the back-end management of that. Yes.
Great, Scott. I love the IT admin experience as part of our vision, right? Loved by end users and trusted by IT. I think this is really nailing that principle as well. But IT admin experiences, end user experiences are also just as important, right? So how does that work? Can you show that?
Yeah, let me share a bit of a demo about the end user experience here. So here I have the Windows app open. It's the Windows app on Windows, but of course, the Windows app runs on iOS, Android. There's a web experience as well. So here I'll show connecting from the Windows app, and I'm logged in to the Windows app as a user who happens to be Lynn Robbins. And you can see here in the list of Cloud PCs, there is just one in here. It's called Shared Workstation, like we named it earlier in the provisioning policy. And I can simply connect from the Windows app here. And Lynn could have multiple Cloud PCs in here. She could have her own dedicated device here and a shared workstation here, and they would both show up side by side. So here we are. We are signed in as Lynn Robbins directly into the shared Cloud PC. You can see if we launch something like Edge, Lynn is automatically signed into Edge. All of her favorites are there. So while the Windows profile itself isn't persisted, things like Edge have roaming, and OneDrive is automatically configured for her. And so Lynn will have, the ability to do a work, perform a task, and then two options here. So if Lynn goes ahead and disconnects the session, perhaps she just closes the window or leaves it there at a lock screen, there's policies that can go and end that session for her and free up that shared Cloud PC. And those are all configurable. Or Lynn can sign out herself. So if Lynn signs out here, again, that shared Cloud PC will be returned back to the pool, but she also has the option to disconnect and have that session returned as well.
Thanks, Scott. Great end user demo. Feels very familiar to our enterprise product and the other Frontline mode offering we have as well. So I'm curious, if I'm an IT admin and I want to know how many of these Frontline Cloud PCs I should provision for my users, what's the sweet spot there? What can I use for that?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple of ways to figure this out, depending on where you are and where you're coming from. So for many of our customers doing VDI today, they look at their existing reports. They look at basically the number of users trying to connect to Cloud PCs at any given time. So that's their max concurrency number. And so existing VDI solutions will give them this figure. It's like, this is how many Cloud PCs in shared mode you need to solve for that use case. The other perspective is for customers that aren't running any VDI today, that are perhaps deploying a new Windows 365 scenario. Perhaps it's replacing some physical devices. And usually a good way to figure that out is to just look at the physical endpoints that you have users connecting from. So for example, if you're a retail customer and you have 2 terminals in each retail store that the users all need to connect to a pool of devices, then you just need to look at those physical endpoints and say that's the maximum number of users that will be able to connect. So those are the key things to figuring out where to start. But then once you've started, then you do have the ability in product to go and monitor how those pools of shared devices are doing. So, flicking back to a demo here to show you some of the reporting capabilities here, I can go ahead and take a look at the connected Frontline Cloud PCs report. And I have, devices that have reached limit and approaching limit. I also have alerts around this, so I can set up alerts to know when my collections are reaching their capacity. But if I want to take a look at the reports here, you can see that the assignments of Frontline shared Cloud PCs are broken down from their parent being the licensing bucket. So if we take a look at retail station here, it's approaching its limit. You can see that there's a bit of a graphic showing the blue lines, showing the most concurrent connections, as in this is the users that are connected right now. And you can see a bit of a period in the middle here where it actually reached the max concurrency. So all of the Cloud PCs in the pool were used up, and you can see that some sessions were actually declined because there were no more Cloud PCs available.
Hey, great IT admin experience here to do the reporting of how many licenses you need. Hey, what if you reach the license limit? What would be the end user experience there?
Yep. So the end users will get a nice little message that says there's too many sessions active. They can try again. And again, you'll be able to get that alert as an IT pro and proactively increase those pools to a bigger size, or change your idle and disconnect policies so that you can more quickly disconnect users if they're sitting there at idle or disconnected sessions.
That's really cool. I love that. So wrapping up here, really great insights that you shared here with the audience. But if folks want to jump more deeper and go like really down in the weeds, how can people learn more about Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode?
Well, we have a nice bunch of content from Ignite. There's a great blog that goes through all of the features and more that we talked about today. So follow there, follow Microsoft Docs. And if you still have questions, please go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to have a discussion and share some of the new upcoming details on Frontline.
Hey, thanks, Scott. I just wanted to ask you, how can people stay in touch with you? But you already spoiled the beans there. So thank you for doing that. And thanks for being on this show. I think it's the first timer for you, but definitely not the last time. So we'll get you back at some point to maybe do a double down on this kind of part of the service, or maybe some other cool feature you're going to work on in the future. Hey, thanks, Scott, for being here. And thank you for watching. Please ensure to check windowsinthecloud.com for all the previous episodes, and as well the latest news on Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop, as well as our last episode on Ignite 2024 on all the new announcements, the other ones next to Windows 365 Frontline too. So I hope to see you back next time.